right, since I do have
55
my two
seconds, then
Dolphin
intro.
fans here. Okay, I've got my two Dolphin fans here. Remember the movie Ace Ventura, Laces Out?
Yes.
Okay, right. When you start a show, ladies and gentlemen, it helps if you hit go live, the big blue button on the top right corner, so that way you can actually start on time.
Definitely helps.
Just yelling at these guys before. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Islander fans, NHL fans, welcome to forget that. We're not doing birthdays. Welcome everyone to Isles Talk. My name is Paul Kreischer. I'm one of your dumbfounded hosts this evening who doesn't know how to hit the start button on time. Joining me as always, and we have a little bit of an Eyes on Isles reunion too here, but the original founder of Eyes on Isles here, Mr. Gary Harding. Gary, how are you?
I wasn't the Eyes on Isles, remember, but you know, that's nice to see you.
You weren't the founder? I thought you were the founder.
No, I am, but we called it Eyes on Isles because of John.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
But you were the first one. So
yeah, I know. I need the long beard, you know. The revolutionary beard.
Succeeding Gary and Eyes on Isles, and a great friend of ours and former New York Islanders writer, contributor to Eyes on Isles, along with a slew of others, hockey writers, WFAN, friend of ours of Isles Talk, Mr. Andy Graziano. Andy, how are you?
I'm well, Paul. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And then there's Joe.
Oh, God. Come on. Wow.
How did I know that was going to happen? Oh my God! Here comes mine, and there you
did. That's why you're laughing. That's why you're laughing.
I'm fine, thank you, Paul. How are you?
All right. We've lost complete control of this show. So, having said that, listen, boys and girls, for tonight's show, it's a little bit of a open discussion, philosophical views here tonight. And it kind of goes with what's going on with the Islanders at the moment. And it may also have to be our perception of what the NHL is going to look like even in the future. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go down memory lane a little bit. And we're going to bring it back here to the future, looking at the kids, how they're playing today, how the game has evolved, how the game has changed. And to start things off, Gary, I know you came in a little late. I know you weren't feeling well, but this is for all of you. So whoever would like to go first. And again, for anyone in the comment section, leave your comments in here and we'll bring you into this conversation. But what did you love about hockey growing up? So, Gary, Andy, Joe?
Figure you start with the oldest one, right?
That would be you then.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Hey, let's see, when I was at my first game, there was 12 teams.
Oh, wait a minute. I want to reiterate. You're a traitor of some sorts here in this timeline because you're a Rangers fan. So how was it watching the Rangers religiously at your age way back when?
Well, I watched both teams religiously because if the people don't know the story, my dad took me in my first game in 1969. The Rangers beat the California Golden Seals 12-0. And I thought, how can things get better than that? When the Islanders came about in 72, I went to just as many Islander games as I went to Ranger games. And my dad told me, God bless his soul, he said, when you're a fan of a team, you stay with your team. And what did my dad do in 1976? He switched over. So, and I basically stayed, but had no negativity on the other team until Esposito started trading everybody away and I came back here. But going back to the question, growing up, sitting up on the blue seats in the Garden as a 6 and 7-year-old, you don't get really much of a story. But as I said, going to Islander games in that first season, we got seats like in the 7th or 8th row in I think it was 108 in the corner. And I'll tell you something, that's when you got gaga for the game. When you're seeing these guys, especially with the low glass that they had at the time, because it was only maybe 2 rows up, and those guys were slamming in front of you at full speed. You were impressed by it. And then, knowing, how significantly great their skating was and their ability to play, and you're watching it that close to you. It drew me in. I was always a baseball fan, played it and all that other stuff. And I still, to me, that's still my number one game, but there is nothing in the world like watching a hockey game. And if you get it at that young age and you either decide to either play the game or still watch the game, there's nothing like it in the world.
I guess I'm next, huh?
Go ahead. Or Joe, go ahead, whoever.
I missed the late 70s, early 80s style of play. To me, the game changed when they took out the red line and went for a more quicker game, high scoring game. I missed those grind them out 1-0, 2-1 games, the fights, the nasty hitting, and just just the taunting. I mean, if you got close enough to the ice, I mean, you would hear the players just cursing at each other. I mean, it was just different. I mean, the game changed so much from back then, but that's my favorite period of hockey. Late 70s, early 80s, to maybe 84, 85. And then everything just started changing.
And then he lost his hair.
Oh, no, I lost it way before then. I mean, I was shady.
Well, Joe, you played hockey.
Yes.
What was your favorite part growing up playing hockey? What was your favorite? I mean, I know you were a goaltender, but you played a lot of other positions. What was it about the sport that you really loved, playing it so much?
The physicality, the hitting. Having to be aware of, you didn't have time to look. I mean, listen, the NHL is in a class by itself as far as speed and not being able to look down at the puck. But I also played roller hockey in Fort Hamilton, and Stan Fischler knows all about that league. That was like a professional roller hockey league. It was a nasty league. Actually, the Mullen brothers played there when they were younger.
Right.
And you put your head down to look at the puck to see where it is. You were buried. You were out. I mean, that's the part of the game I love. I love the physical part of the game.
It's funny you mentioned Fort Hamilton because I played in the Staten Island Roller Hockey League. My father was a board of director in that league. Which then became the Richmond Roller Hockey League, and we used to play Fort Hamilton in the All-Star game every year.
Wait, you're talking about the rink by the highway, or on
Mills Road? The rink in Miller Field, right off the water.
By Mills Avenue. That's where
by the hangar, by the airplane hangar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We played in there too. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I grew up playing baseball, soccer. I tried a whole bunch of things. My father put me on skates at 6, and that's really all there was for me after that. Got me my first jersey. I remember a Brian Trottier jersey. It was my first ever Islanders jersey. Now I could probably use it as a dish towel. Definitely ain't going to fit me, that's for sure. But I mean, my first real memory of being sucked into the game, because like Gary said before, at 8, you don't really have a full comprehension of the NHL as a league, and you're kind of playing because it's fun at that point, right? And then you kind of start to get good. You start to get some talent. It starts to become a little more competitive. My dad used to have tickets at the Coliseum, first row, second level, right behind the net. And we saw Islanders Rangers was a core memory of mine at the Coliseum. Brent Sutter scored in overtime to beat the Rangers, and the absolute euphoria in the old Coliseum, the way it used to shake and the way it used to just reverberate through your entire body was something that I'll never forget. And then it turns out a year later, we find ourselves in the finals, and in game, it was a two out of 3. So in game 1, we went to double overtime, and I ended up scoring the double overtime winner in game 1 of the finals when I was 12. And again, it's just the euphoric feeling that it gave me. It was just, other than the birth of my kids, there's just kind of never been anything that gave me that kind of euphoria, like from head to toe, just pins and needles, just absolute excitement and teamwork, the camaraderie. I go watch my grandson play now. When he goes to his Silver Sticks tournaments in Maryland, I meet him down there and I watch him play. And I just walk into the rink and I sniff. I know that sounds weird. It sounds creepy,
Yes.
but I walk into the rink and I just go, and everything just comes rushing back. 45 years of playing, 12 years of coaching, it just all comes rushing back in one euphoric minute. And it's just, that's kind of what I remember the most growing up.
Yeah. No, for me, I got into, everyone knows my story now. My first Islander game that I remember was Bossy's 50-50.
Wow.
And it was
That's
the
cool.
consistent scoring that I got to see. You got to see Clark Gillies beat people up on the occasion, but it was that dynamic back and forth going on. Like, this was hockey all the time. We were spoiled.
Oh, absolutely.
We were spoiled
100%.
growing up,
100%.
no doubt.
100%.
And the 90s for us older folks here humbled us a little bit, to put it nicely. Yes, I know. But,
Minus 92. Minus
Yeah.
93.
but for me playing, I had the chance to play right wing, and up here in PA, it was lakes. Back in the late 80s, everything was frozen pretty much by November. We used to get 10, 12, 15 feet of snow in one shot. We used to clear off the lakes, and there was a lot of intramurals. Every once in a while, we'd grab a ref or two if it was possible. But my favorite, I used to play right wing and goaltender. But Joe, you can relate to this. It's a tie game, or there's a lead or whatnot. You're in net. They're coming down the ice, and they're trying to show off. They're trying to show off because all of a sudden you see their hip move, and you see the windup coming in, and you can see the slap shot coming a mile away. And for us goalies, it's like a slam dunk. You catch that glove, you catch the puck like a glove, and you're just standing and you're staring right back at them as they're skating by you, wondering how that did not go in. For me, that was pinnacle. That was how you did it. And there was nothing better than like a good stare down. It's like, yeah, nice try. Get back over there and whatever. For me, that's it. It was always that competitiveness. I agree with all of you. Some of that
Yeah.
physicality, the competitiveness, and that drive.
And you and Joe have turned out to be pretty normal in terms of goaltenders, right? Because I always knew goaltenders.
Gary?
Definitely not Andy.
I always knew goaltenders were weird and quirky, and Gary's going to probably back me up on this until I got into the locker room with Evgeny Nabokov.
Oh,
And
God.
I said,
He
this
was
guy is
the
out of
bro.
his goddamn mind. He's
the
out of his
anti-goalie.
mind.
The
He was out of his
anti-goalie.
mind. He would come out of the shower in a towel. He'd be talking to Stan. I'd be standing right next to Stan, and he's just riffing. And then like one time, I remember his towel fell down, and he just sits there continuing to riff. And me and Stan are just looking at each other, going, "What is this guy serious right now? Like, what the hell's going on?" Like that's when I really got the true quirkiness of like goaltenders. I was like, "This guy's nuts, and I love it. This guy's crazy. This guy's crazy."
Thank you, Randy. Listen, though, I got to ask real quick with Nabokov, how much of a hockey education just with Nabokov there, with what he was talking about?
It's unbelievable. But I'll tell you who I've respected the most in that whole time was. I don't think people can they know, but they can't truly grasp that Stan Fischler has literally forgotten more than I'll ever know about the game of hockey in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people know Stan, obviously, and they respect Stan, and they know about his long, illustrious career, but I was just like, he is literally the definition of a walking hockey encyclopedia. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
To a smaller part here, I usually bring up my now 90-year-old great uncle. and who was a season ticket holder at the old Madison Square Garden. And no lie, one of my favorite things to do still during the summer is when the NHL Network begins to replay some of those
Yep.
old games.
Agreed.
Guys, he will do a play-by-play. He's got a story for some of those games that we're on. And I'm just listening to him rattle off some of those names. And then he'll go into like a New York City story that kind of relates to the Rangers or whatever. It didn't even bother me that it was the Rangers or whatnot, but the information that these older fans can bring out at any time. I love those memories.
I've got a great story for you to add on to that. And you may remember him. There was a guy in the Booster Club. His name was Bill Hayes. He was the one that when they had the 75th anniversary of the NHL, when they had Ralph Macchio and everybody, with representing their teams, Bill went down to do the opening faceoff on the first game because he was one of the few that was literally at every single Islander home game from 1972 to that point. And he was our novelties guy for the Booster Clubs. He would always get all like the tchotchkes that you got at the time. And Bill used to have these pens made. And his line always was whenever he saw the guys, he'd say, "Keep skating." So that was his tagline. So he's doing the opening face-off, and of course, I don't remember who they were playing at the time, but Patrick Flatley comes in, and Patrick knows him, and he kind of like gives him a little punch and says, "Congratulations, Bill." And Bill goes, "Here, take my pen." Literally at the face-off, he's giving him one of his pens. But that was the funny story. But the amazing part about it is when I really got to sit and talk with him for a period of time, and again, he was going to the Rangers and the Americans on the double headers. Right. You go to the Americans game at like 12 o'clock and go to the Ranger game at 4 when they were playing both at the Garden at the same time. And he kept just a little 4x6 notebook. And every time the lines would change, he'd write it down. The clock and who came off, who came on. So what you're seeing on the scoreboard now at UBS, he was doing that every game. And he could go back and he'd tell you what was going on. This play, it was started because of this and this and this. And I'm like, and this guy came on and boom, boom, boom. It's like,
that's amazing.
I wish I had one 100th of the memory he had. God rest his soul.
Right.
Wow.
Beautiful. So, all right. Well, having everyone collect their memories here, because we're old farts at this point, including myself here. Joe, you kind of answered the question before, but what was or is your favorite NHL era?
Oh, my favorite era.
Yeah.
Well, I gave it an answer already. So
yeah, late 70s, early 80s.
Let's say from 80 to 85, that style of play. The players involved in that style of play. Back then, 85, the Capitals had a decent team. The Islanders were on, I believe, the decline after 84.
Right.
The Rangers were always, they were decent. Flyers were decent, and that was my favorite era, the Patrick Division days. That was my favorite era.
Gary?
I think I'll be a little selfish in a sense. I mean, those every other decade, had its moments and had its great things. I'm just going to say 89 and 93, only for the fact that that's when I first became a season ticket holder, a full-time season ticket holder. And I had that, it was just an immeasurable amount of joy that I had, leaving my job in Garden City and going that maybe 5-minute trip to the game after work, and the memories that I had going to those games and sometimes hanging out by gate one afterwards and talking with the guys and stuff like that. That really got me not only just to follow hockey, but to really want to dig more deeper and understand the game better. I mean, I knew the game then, but that's when I think I really became a creature of it and really tried to learn as much as I could so that I can be on the show on November 13th, 2024 and busting your chops.
You can do that
No,
anytime.
but seriously, I think that really, I think it fueled the passion for me. I mean, the team was, other than 93, the teams weren't that great, but it was a fun team to watch and they had characters. Again, I started following Glenn Healy, and became a friend of his. And that was, that was a fun time, to me, of being a fan of this team. So I'll stick with that.
Okay. Andy.
Yeah, this is tough for me because I say all the time all the reasons that hockey saved my life in a way, and you hear that and you take it at face value, but you don't really know the backstory, right? So the Islanders' Stanley Cup years were extremely special for me. I lost my mom in 1980 when I was 9, and I mean, when I say the Islanders got me through probably 4 of the toughest years of my life, it's not an understatement for me when I say that. I grew up in a neighborhood. Right after she died, we moved to a new neighborhood in Staten Island, and I had 5 kids all my age that lived on the adjoining block of where I lived, and it was truly a dream come true for me because we played roller hockey in the street every single day. Not to mention all 5 of them were Ranger fans. So here I come strutting out in my Trache jersey in the middle of the Stanley Cup years, looking for a distraction, right? Looking for something to take my mind off of the trauma that I just experienced. And so that for me was my most special era for me, probably the 80s for sure. But it's just continued for me, right? I mean, you roll into the 90s and then so many great players that I loved watching: Pavel Bure, Steve Yzerman, Eric Lindros. So for me, it's probably like usually when you say eras, you probably go in decades. But for me, I'm going to say definitely the early 80s was biggest. But for me, it rolled right into like the mid 90s, honestly. And from then, I just never looked back.
Yeah. I'm kind of going to go along with what Andy just said with the mid 90s. Even with the trap from Lou and the Devils, but what Lou did was that he kept the playoff games close. It wasn't blowout games. You started to see more speed. You started to see more traps. You started to see a little bit of a balance there, but the games were so close. You didn't want to go to the bathroom until it was a commercial break.
Right.
And the playoffs, you couldn't leave your seat, especially in 93 with what the Islanders were going through. So for me, the way the game evolved, yes, with more speed, far more hits at that time, because we had Rich Pilon come on last year, and he basically said him and Kasparaitis just abused Mario, and that was one of the things. But the speed that Andy was just talking about with Pavel Bure and Detroit, Colorado, you had those rivalries, the speed.
Oh man!
But the games were always close in the playoffs, and for me, it cemented that because it still holds true now. I try to take as many days off that first round of the playoffs because you just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And that goes back to really like starting in the 90s because, again, even in the 80s, the first round, you kind of knew you were going to take out that first team if you were doing really, really good. Upsets didn't really occur that much, not until like the late 80s, early 90s or whatnot. But, for me, the 90s, you start playing playoffs, there was like no guarantee of anything. And I for me, that's still my favorite era. So, those were beautiful times. And where the game has evolved now, we have less hits. I'm sorry. We have more goals. We have less fights. Rule changes have come into play. The red line was taken out, as Joe has said. We now have a trapezoid. Thank you, Martin Brodeur. Thank you, Rick DiPietro. The rules have changed, and yes, some of them are definitely for player safety. Concussion issues are certainly a serious thing, but we're adding, especially in the, we'll call it the McDavid era for now. There's definitely more speed. There's definitely more skill. I know you guys like the grinding game, the hitting and whatnot, but and this kind of pertains to the Islanders right now. If the Islanders are up 1 goal, 2 goals, whatever it is, granted, goal different, the goals can change, especially in the second and beginnings of the third period, but the Islanders have a goal, or any team, any NHL team right now has a 1-goal lead. A lot of fans are not seeing the passion in quotes here, of trying to hold that lead and win a game. And what do I mean by that? Gentlemen, for me, I'm seeing a lot of the players sticking to the system that's in place. They're poke checking, they're using their sticks, but I'm not seeing a lot of emotion. I'm seeing some hits, but it's okay. It's not really stopping a play. It's not really, I don't want to say cause a commotion, but it's not disrupting the other team. All right, maybe we'll bring this back to the Islanders. Andy, you were notorious for asking this question. The Islanders are lacking like a killer instinct or that Mamba mentality for basketball fans here to finish a game. And yes, some of it is absolutely due to confidence, but is it coming to a point where it's just the systems that fans are getting annoyed with, or is it the players? Is it a little bit of both? Give me your thoughts. Are we losing the killer instinct because of the system, or is it something else, or are we just getting too old for this sport?
I don't think we're getting too old for the sport. I think it's right. I liken the Islanders' third periods as my wife's ability to swim. Right, my wife doesn't swim; she survives. Right.
Okay.
That's exactly how I liken Islander third periods at this point. Last night was the aberration where we were down 2. We came back thanks to our captain, stole a point in Edmonton. Great, but we still ended up losing. Right, and I think that it's hard for me. Like, I've always hated the argument from a fan's perspective that, oh, they're not trying, or, oh, where's the effort, quote unquote effort.
Yeah,
right? Because that's hogwash. Right. That's absolute hogwash.
Right.
However, to your point, I don't think they necessarily have at the moment that killer instinct, that step on the other team's neck, right? Like, they're up 3-1, third period power play. We see it all the time, and their power play is abysmal to begin with, but 3-1, 10 minutes left in the third, they're on a power play, and it almost looks like they're just trying to get through the 2 minutes. So like, oh, we have a 2-goal lead now with only 8 minutes left. Thank God we got through that 2 minutes. They don't yet have that step on the neck mentality. And that has to come from the players, right? When I coached for 12 years. And I always used to say to my wife, I could teach skill. I could teach us how to shoot. I could teach them how to skate. I could teach them how to back skate. I can go through various drills, passing. What you can't teach is passion, right? That's what separates a kid who's really good at hockey and a kid who makes it to the NHL. Is just that internal fire, that competitiveness, that not ever wanting to lose, that I have to be the best player out there every single time I step on the rink. That's what separates AHLers and NHLers at the end of the day, right? And I don't think the Islanders have that mentality at the moment.
Right.
That could come from coaching. I haven't been in the room with Patrick Waugh, so I'm not going to sit here and slam a future Hall of Famer for his coaching technique. However, we have seen plenty of ex-players try to coach and not do it successfully. So if, God forbid, this doesn't work out for Patrick Waugh and the Islanders, he won't be the first and he won't be the last for that to happen to. But I do think that that does stem a little bit from a coaching perspective. I wrestle between these are men and they shouldn't have to be told what the stakes are, to there's a certain responsibility laid on a coach to have his team ready to go every night. And unfortunately, we just don't know what's being said, if anything, in between the second and third periods of some of these meltdowns that we've seen. That was my biggest criticism, honestly, of John Tavares when he was captain here. I covered this team through the Tavares years, and my biggest criticism to my fellow media members, and they used to all think I was crazy when we'd take the train home after the game. I used to be like, is Tavares the kind of captain that comes in and breaks a stick in half when the team is playing like crap? Is he calling anybody out? I don't see it. I don't see him being that type of captain. And that's what this team needs. I don't see that in Anders Lee either. I'm not saying Anders Lee's a bad captain per se, but I'm not sure he's what they need right now, is my point. Like, I don't know if you guys have watched Face Off Inside the NHL yet on Amazon Prime. Absolutely.
No.
That speech by McDavid, now I get it. That was the finals. That was really ramped up, intense. But, I mean, can any of you honestly say that you see any Islander captain out ever, like in the last, let's say, from let's go Tavares to now, ever being that type of captain? I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't.
No, I don't see it either.
No.
I don't see it either.
So what do you see?
I see the Islanders up 2 goals in the third period. Team comes out early and scores. I see their shoulders slump. I see their heads go down, and I see them saying to themselves, "Here we go again." Okay. It's like in the third period they're playing not to lose instead of let's win. Let's go out and win. They're afraid to make that mistake, and they're just not letting their hockey senses win the game for them. It's like they tighten up and they're lost. Especially if they're backed up in their own end. When it's 6-on-5, the other team pulls their goalie and they're trying to tie the game up. They're just running around in circles. There's no structure to their game at that point. And don't get me wrong, you got a team keeping the puck in the zone for more than 40 seconds, it's going to weigh you down. But still, it's more like they're playing not to lose. And when a team scores an early goal in that third period, they just collapse. They just collapse, and they fall into this I don't even know what to call it, a black hole where, like, here we go again, and the team just takes over the game. They just got to let their hockey sense take over. And, I don't know what they're being told in the locker room, third period, come out, just dump the puck down, get back into your zone. I mean, you take a coach like Jacques Lemaire when he was the coach of the Devils. That's not the way he played. They dumped that puck in. They kept the puck in the offensive zone. That's how they beat you. You weren't going to come back and win.
Were doing.
Right. What happened?
Yeah. Right.
What happened to that?
Yeah.
What happened to that style of play?
Best defense is a good offense.
There you go. You keep the puck. Hey, listen, how many times a game does Butchie say chip and chase? Playing their end. That's the best way to win the game. Just keep the puck in their end. They dump the puck in. They don't even forecheck the guy.
No.
They don't even forecheck him. Not even a snowplow or anything trying to get the puck away from him. They just skate back. They dump it in and get back. So I don't know. That's my take on the third period for the Islanders, is that they just go into a shell.
Right. Gary, you're there at least half the season. You're there full, season ticket holder. What are you seeing? Where's that passion that we put in quotations?
Well,
here?
actually, you put it on the screen a few minutes ago, and Angie made an absolute perfect point. That body language says it all on the bench. I mean, I am in the upper deck, so I'm not going to really be able to see their faces as close as you guys do when you're watching it on TV. But you can see the attitude, and to me, just reiterating what Andy and Joe have properly said, when it gets to that point, when the other night when they had that 2-goal lead in the third period, you just saw when they gave up that goal, and I'll look at everybody in the section and go, oh, we're screwed. I mean, and that's what everybody's thinking, because you see it in themselves. And we all know, during his career, how passionate Patrick Waugh can be. And there are times when he's really going off, but I think going back to the Barry era, when you saw the veins popping on the top of Barry's skull, the team was going to go and start playing a little bit more inspired hockey, and they did. It's sometimes you want to see that Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks and knocking down the table and getting these guys riled up. I mean, that's what it looks like. I mean, and just as Andy said, it's the players that got to do it. I mean, you could say all you want from the coach's side, but the players got to see their handwriting on the wall.
Right.
You're up, killer instinct, go for the jugular. Nobody cares about if you run up the score, you want your goal is to decimate your opponent. So don't be nice and let them back in the third period. I mean, that's what I see. And again, that attitude just comes out as soon as that goal that brings the lead down from 2-1. And how many times have we given up a 6-on-5 goal in the last minute of a period or the last minute of a game? It's getting pathetic. It's like a constant book going over and over again.
Another part of the problem too is where's the accountability? Like, who are you gonna, especially now, right, with the injuries, Barzal, Duclair, Pellick, Romanov, Riley. Like, there's no one even to challenge for their spot, right? So, where is the accountability if Brock Nelson has a game and he's just off and he's got 3 horrendous turnovers in the D zone? There's no accountability because there's nobody that can take his spot. There's no threat of anybody taking your spot. So they're not playing with that element of fear. Like, hey, if I don't do everything I need to do here, someone's going to take my spot. That just doesn't exist right now on this team.
Right. All right, coach. So I'm going to have to put you on the spot. How do you build up a team's confidence? You just continue to throw them into the fire and hope for something works, that we finally have an aha moment? Or is it something else? Is it the system that we have to tweak?
I think with the guys you got now, I don't know how I don't know how much system tweaking they're going to really be able to do. When you got your 2 key offensive players out for a period of time, and hopefully by the end of the trip, Duclair's coming back. I'm crossing my fingers and toes and every other body part I can cross. But we've been decimated. But I want to maybe take the second to put a ton load of praise onto Isaiah George. I mean, what an incredible start this kid has had.
100%.
I mean, no one expected to, when I heard they were calling him up, I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, what are you thinking? And that kid has not looked for any bit of time like he's lost out there. And this is a treasure. I mean, everybody made a lot of comments about the draft picking, but Isaiah George is really a nice diamond in the rough that can be. And out of all this pain, at least you got to take some positive out.
I think we need
A
to
kid
be
like
patient,
that's
right?
Sorry.
I think defense is it is, in my opinion, the hardest position in the NHL to master. And we saw the struggles that even, if you put Victor Hedman up there, which I do, in the top defenseman in the sport, his first 3-4 years weren't great. I think that's kind of what worries a lot of fans from a defensive perspective anyway about Dobson. This isn't Dobson's first, second, or third year. He's in year 6 now. He should be a lot further along defensively than he is. And while he struggles defensively, his offense has gone in the toilet as well since the Winter Classic game last year. He just has not produced at either end of the ice. He's making glaring mistakes, and that's, I think, fans' biggest concerns about Dobson. So we have to be patient with Isaiah George and go through the growing pains that he's going to have. You know, he's facing the best forwards in the world, just flowing at him through the neutral zone with little impediment. And it's a tough thing to do. So Gary's absolutely right. We may have a diamond in the rough here as long as we just stay patient with his development. But I also feel that development is best learned on the ice, right? I think this is at this point with the injuries to the defense, you do exactly what Gary said. You throw him right in and let the kid play. We saw that, right? His first game, he made that glaring mistake by throwing the puck in front of the net. What does Patrick Waugh do? Throw him right back out for his next shift. Great job by Patrick Waugh. Throw him right back out.
Trial by fire.
That's
But
it.
let me tell you something. A kid that looks that comfortable, and he looks comfortable out there, okay? There's like no sweat to his game. He's going to make somebody expendable if the Islanders are out of the playoff race come the trade deadline.
No question about it.
He's going to make a defenseman expendable.
Yeah, and that defenseman could be Dobson, depending on how they view his next contract.
That's exactly what I was saying. That's what I was going to say.
You can't pay Noah Dobson $8.5 million a year, which is the going rate for offensive defensemen in the NHL right now on comps. You can't give Noah Dobson a 7-year, $8.5 million contract. You just can't.
And Hutton looks comfortable there too. Hutton's not missing a beat. He's not hurting the team.
No, not at all.
No, and that goal on Hutton was just a fluky one. Hutton was in the right spot at the right time, pushing off, trying to clear the space in front of Sorokin, and they just banked that puck off.
And could you ever think in your wildest dreams that Dennis Chalowski would be the only one on this defensive corps that's got goals?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah, and two.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting Scotty Mayfield to have a 20-goal season, but, crying out loud.
Yeah, Scotty snipes one every now and then. He wows you every now and then when he comes down the right side and just puts one.
I mean, he was plus, wasn't he?
He puts it right from the right face-off dirt.
You're like, what the hell was that? Was that Scott Mayfield?
Where the hell did that come from?
That Kenny Morrow top of the circle shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he could shoot like that. What the hell?
That's great.
So, yeah. Listen, this has been great so far. We'll leave the questions up here for everyone else here on Water Cooler Talk. If you guys want to talk a little bit more about Isaiah George.
I got a question for everybody. Okay, since we were talking about our favorite times of hockey, okay?
Sure.
And we're talking about finishing a team off, okay?
Sure.
Say in a playoff round, you got to finish the team off. All your years of watching hockey, and let's leave the Islanders out of it, okay? Leave the 80s Islanders out of it. What team would you say was the best shutdown team where you knew if they had a 1-goal lead going into the third period, you were saying this game is over? I have my team, but I'll go last.
That's a really good question.
Unless you just want me to go first.
I'm gonna go far back.
Go ahead.
77-78 Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
That four cup, win before we had our 4 cup win. That team was just so quick. And you put something out, like Cornwallis or Steve Shutt, one of those guys gets a goal when with a tie game coming up, you knew the lights were off. That was it. With Dryden back there and that great Montreal defense of the 70s, to me, that was just, just watching it on TV was something special.
I remember the Yzerman Cup runs, and Detroit was pretty shut down when they got a lead. And again, that was all led by, we were just talking before about captains and how they can kind of will their team and pump their team up to greater heights. I mean, Steve Yzerman goes down for me as one of the greatest captains to ever do it. That Detroit team, when they got a lead, was pretty damn nasty.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say Detroit. You stole my answer, but I'm
Sorry,
gonna
Joe.
go.
Sorry.
Good, Andy.
It's all right.
Good for you, Andy.
No, that's fine because I do have another team.
Okay.
The 95 Devils.
Oh, yeah.
The 95 Devils.
Yeah.
That was
When
Danico,
it came to-
Rafalski, Stevens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. When it came to closing out a series,
Nasty. The team was nasty.
they just shut you down. They just
Tommy
shut you
Abilene
down.
too, right?
Huh?
Yeah.
Tommy Emily.
Tommy
Yep.
Abilene too.
Yeah, Tommy
Tommy
Abilene.
Albaline. Wow.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He was a
That
rock
team's
on
nasty.
defense. He was.
Yeah, he
And then
was.
if you got through them, you had to beat Brodeur.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Unbelievable.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's not too shabby on his part.
Exactly.
I'm
pretty good.
actually going to
Yeah,
give
the
a little
Devils
bit
is
of
pretty
credit right now
Pretty good.
to our last year's Stanley Cup winners, the Florida Panthers. They had that one goal
Okay.
lead, right, with the top offense in the league. They shut them down 1-0.
Game 7 too.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that in a while,
Games, yeah.
probably
those
since
games, no.
the Detroit years or since the Devils and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, they shut them down in Game 7 too, right? Game 7 was a 1-goal game.
That was it.
Yeah.
They shut them out
They
in
shut
Game
them.
7
They did it in Game 7 too to
It
win
was
the
Yeah.
cup.
2-1. It was 2-1,
or
wasn't it?
1.
It
Yeah,
was 2-1.
2-1.
2-1, yeah.
Yeah. But still, who's going to do that? I mean,
Yeah.
granted that Edmonton had to claw their way through, but push comes to shove. That Florida just shut them down. I haven't seen anything like that since Detroit or New Jersey or
Yeah.
any other time like that. Absolutely, at least on the short term here. Always help to have a puck handling goalie. Yeah, we missed
And
those.
again,
days,
that
everybody.
was a lot of credit to Paul Maurice too in that series. Like the hot mic
Absolutely.
of him, I think it was Game 5 of saying, I don't care if we score another goal, just work the shit out of their defense, just
Yep.
hit them
Right.
so they have nothing left when they go back. Like,
Yep.
unbelievable, just unbelievable job of coaching in that series as well by Maurice.
Oh yeah.
All right, boys and girls. Any other questions, comments, concerns for us? You guys have been coming along very well. There was a question about Bridgeport going to the Coliseum in the future. It's my understanding that Bridgeport still has like a 30-year lease to go. The Islanders, obviously leases can be broken, but I haven't heard anything of the Islanders going to the Coliseum. I'm shocked.
And you
the
still
Coliseum
have
is
the
standing.
potential situation with the casinos, thing
That's
going
correct.
on too.
Well,
So
let me ask you.
nothing's going to get resolved until they find out what they're actually doing with the property.
Correct, with the building, right?
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Don't the Rangers have a say in that? Isn't there a 50-mile radius or something as far as a farm team being?
I don't think with farm teams, no.
No, not the farm team.
No.
That's
Only
only
with pro
eminent domain with the NHL.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought at one point there was. I thought at one
No.
point that no. Okay.
No, because the Islanders had their team in New Haven, so that's less than 50 miles.
No. I'm talking about within, like,
Different league. It's a different league,
Different
technically.
league.
DiPietro
Okay.
apparently negotiated that lease in Bridgeport.
Really? I wouldn't be shocked.
Sorry. Had to throw that in there. Sorry. And look, I've always been on Ricky's side with that. Hey, they put that in front of me. I'm freaking signing it too. It's not his fault.
No,
doubt.
Better than him.
Not his fault.
No doubt.
ask Bobby Bonilla the same question.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we now have 8-year contracts, boys and girls.
I have a question
he's
for
one
you
of the
guys.
reasons.
Since we're so old and we go back a ways, give me the cleanest, hardest hitter you've ever seen. Mine's easy. Mine's like really easy. A guy who consistently knocked guys the hell out, but did it elbows down, stick down, just an absolute menace.
Wow.
Kids just want to think.
Forward or
Mine-
defenseman? Doesn't matter. Forward or defenseman?
Doesn't matter. Well, that's a good answer by Robin. That's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
I got
Even
mine.
though Ranger fans will disagree, Robin. But
Right.
Let him hang on to that one a little longer.
Phil Russell.
I'm with Ryan. I've never seen someone other than Scott Stevens just do it so consistently, so heavily, and so clean. Like I've never seen someone as viciously clean as Scott Stevens was in his heyday. Just an absolute menace.
Well, I was going to bring up his defensive partner. He was with the Capitals, Rod Langway.
Oh yeah, Langway was an underrated hitter.
Rod Langway used to hit, but he was very, very clean, elbows down, and played with a lot of grit too.
Oh, Robin's just throwing him out. Nicholas Kron.
Yeah, he is.
Wow.
He is.
Yeah, Robin goes nuts.
Wow.
This is up Robin's alley right now.
That's a good
Robin
one.
and
Nicholas
Angie just like
Kronwall's a really good one.
we let Robin and Angie just take over the show sometimes. With the comments.
Yeah,
The Cornell
they're great.
brothers.
They're absolutely
The
great.
Cornell brothers used to throw their body around. They were pretty clean.
Who's
Russ
that?
and Jeff.
Oh, Cardinals. Yes.
Brad
I'd say
McCrimmon.
Ovi-
I was gonna go back to my-
I mean, most of Ovi's hits have been clean. He's thrown a couple of dirty ones, but
Actually, I'm going to just leave a name that wouldn't be on people's minds. Sergio Omesso. When he played
Wow.
with
Wow.
DJ Sergio.
God.
Well, you're going like Basil McRae. You're going in those
Yes.
days.
Got to keep showing my age, Joe.
Man, that's it. Me too. Ludwig, right? You have all those the Cordig brothers, the Cordigs.
Right. Robin's throwing the mic down. If you didn't include us, it'd be a half-hour show.
No.
Wow. That's the end of
That's
that.
great. That's great.
Oh, that gets him.
lot
That
of
gets
good
him to
answers
be a
in the
guest
chat.
host.
A lot of good answers in the chat. Brad Parr.
Yeah, great answers.
Mark
A lot of good
Tenorti.
answers in the chat.
Mark Tenorti. Wow, Mark Tenorti.
Cam Neely.
Yeah.
Wendell
Cam
Clark.
Neely was a beast.
Cam
A
Neely just
silent-
ran over everybody.
Yeah.
Cam
Yeah.
A silent but deadly hitter because he didn't go. Chris Pronger for me.
Chris Pronger.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought about that.
He picked his spots.
Chris Pronger when
Yeah.
he would bring you in. He'd tease you. He didn't go after you, but man, if you got too close, it was over. And he was so tall and so buff that it just didn't
Yep.
look like a vicious hit. But
It was
when
an
you
effort,
got hit by
right?
him, yeah. Oh,
Anyone? Jacob Trouba? Anyone? No?
Brendan
No one said Jacob
Shanahan.
Trouba, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. He's
No one said
clean.
Jacob Trouba?
He's clean.
Oh, Trouba?
Gotta give him that.
Paul, come on. Jacob Trouba
Come on.
on the Rangers. That Jacob Trouba.
That Jacob Trouba.
Tito
The hit
Santana
from
flying
behind. Yeah, I
elbow.
know.
Tito Santana flying elbow. Jacob Trouba. That Jacob
Exactly.
Trouba.
All the time.
Wait, I got the cleanest guy of all. I got the cleanest guy of all when it comes to throwing hits. Wendell Clark.
Wendell Clark. Another damn menace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Robin already beat you to that, right?
He was cut out. He was cut
Well,
out.
I said
of the
I have about Brendan Shanahan.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you something. Those Brendan Shanahan, if you really, really got him going and you got him to drop the gloves, he was a freaking animal.
Yeah, he was.
Absolute animal. The picture
And who
in my
was-
head that I keep seeing over and over again with Shanahan is when he clotheslined Wah in that Detroit Colorado brawl.
Oh.
And Wah came running out at center ice and Shanahan intercept. That was the game, I think, when McCarty went after Claude Lemieux.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Wah came out to get McCarty off of Lemieux, and Shanahan just comes flying in. They'll never go out of my memory.
That was a nasty series.
Yeah, and that's the series that we miss these days. We don't have those series
Yeah.
anymore like that.
No.
Yeah.
That nastiness, that just mean.
No, we don't
nastiness.
have Gretzky and Billy Smith going at it with
Yep.
each other's hockey sticks. We
Yep.
don't have that anymore.
Let me tell you something. That series, that line of Sutter, and Bourne shut the
Sutter.
Oilers down. Shut them down. I think Gretzky had 1 assist that whole series,
Yeah.
right?
By the way, congrats on Brent. Always one of my favorite Islanders. My second
Absolutely.
Islander jersey ever was a Brent Sutter jersey, and congratulations on his induction into the Islanders Hall of Fame. Well deserved.
But let me ask you something. How come Dwayne isn't in? He won 4 cups with the Islanders.
He did win 4 cups, but I mean,
But he played his roles. He was a role player.
Yeah.
He was, you know.
But
Yeah,
again,
there's an argument that you can make for probably anybody on any of those teams from 80 to 84, right? I mean,
True.
Dave Langevin, right? Look at all the shots Dave Langevin blocked.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Billy Carroll, right, on the penalty killing maven. There's an argument you can make for a lot of guys. So unfortunately, there's going to always be omissions with stuff like that, right? That you're going to be like, why
Thomas Janssen, you know, another
Thomas
great.
Janssen. Wow, yeah.
Well,
I won't be upset if they put Oleg Kavasha in there.
Oleg Kavasha.
oh my God.
Gary,
Hold on
come
for 1 minute, Phil.
That was a joke, folks.
Come on, Gary. You know who honestly doesn't get enough respect for his career as an Islander, to be completely honest?
And that's what I get to do to Gary when he says something like Oleg Kavasha. That's what I get to do.
Who, in my opinion, doesn't get enough respect.
Bite me.
If you look at his career as an Islander, and you may have questioned his passion at times, but Alexei Yashin.
Yep.
You could question his passion at times, but the guy produced.
Yeah.
The guy produced when he was here.
What about Dave Chizowski? Look at the contributions he made to the team.
What, breaking glass?
The guy had a rocket of a shot, but he couldn't skate.
There was nobody better on penalty shots or shootouts. Steve
He was the
Tambolini.
New York Islanders version of
Jeff
Fulton Reed,
Jeff
1 and
Tambolini.
5.
Jeff
Jeff
Tambolini.
Tambolini.
The only thing he can do is score
yeah.
on a clean breakaway.
Wow.
So, gentlemen, real quick, in this era of the NHL, what would you consider a dynasty? Making the Stanley Cup 3 years in a row? Winning it 3 years in a row? What would it take for fans these days to acknowledge a dynasty in this era?
I think you got to win it. I think.
Well, I think the closest one to a dynasty lately was, I'll go to Detroit. Having like 4 or 5 cups in 7 years. You know, that's the closest you're going to get.
I agree.
Because with the advent of the big contracts and all this stuff, you're not going to be able to do what any of the teams in the 60s, 70s, and 80s did.
Correct.
So you're going to have to retool and recharge.
Okay.
So it takes a year
3
or
cups
two
in 5 years?
right back in.
I'd have to say the Blackhawks.
Yeah, they had that run for a while.
Yeah, 3 cups in every other year.
I think a lot of people are scared to even bring them up with the off the ice stuff. People are even scared to bring them up, but
Yeah, right.
they had some run there. Didn't they have that one year? It was the lockout year, right? They lost like 6 games. They went like 42-6 or something crazy like that.
That was 2013
lockout year.
Yeah,
yeah, that was the Taze and Kane and Duncan Keith years.
Yeah.
Brent Seabrook.
Yep,
they were pretty nasty. But I think like Gary said, you either have to win a lot in a short amount of time or win a couple consecutive, I think, to be put in that dynasty mold. And like Gary said so eloquently, I don't think you're ever going to see a team like those 70s Habs teams and those 80 Islander teams and the the late 80 Oilers teams. You're just not going to see that anymore, I don't think.
No.
I don't think it's possible.
And even Tampa Bay. I mean, all right, there was the season was shortened, but they still won.
Fake cup.
And by the way, this guy should be banned.
It's a shortened season. It's a shortened season.
I know they still won the tournament. I know. I'm only kidding.
The other teams were still in it. I mean, you still had to beat them.
They still won the tournament. I get it. I was half kidding.
No, I got you. But I'm just saying from a championship standpoint. All right, they didn't play a full season, but they still had to go through the grind like everybody else did.
They won when it mattered.
Look, I'm convinced that we would have absolutely waxed Montreal, and we would not be sitting here saying fake cup. So that's all I'm going to say. Short of outside of a shorthanded goal with 5 players on the ice, and that's good. That's arguable. We waxed Montreal in the final that year.
Oh yeah,
that still stings to me very, very much.
Me too.
Very much. That wound has not been closed.
You tell a guy with a busted jaw, missing teeth, and 150 stitches in his face, that was a fake cup.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
going to stick something up your private part that you're not going to
Exactly.
get
You're
out.
gonna be sitting
Yeah,
on
exactly.
that stick. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Here's
that year sits in my craw. Like I can't get that out of my head. Like I'm absolutely positively convinced we would have won the cup that year.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Montreal had no shot against us.
No shot at all. No shot at all. Brutal.
Jimmy DeVillano.
Wow.
Do we ever give him a little more credit for the Islander dynasty years? Do we give him a night?
That's interesting.
Well, you'll have 80% of the crowd going, "Who the hell is he?"
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a younger
Well, I'm
generation.
asking
now,
it. That's
right?
why I'm bringing it
Right.
up to you, gentlemen.
No, I mean, the people like us will know, but if you're trying to, give people a reason, no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's a good point, Gary.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Jimmy DeVillano was the assistant general manager to Bill Torrey during the dynasty years, who went on to Detroit.
Yep.
And helped build the dynasty that were the Red Wings throughout the 90s as well. But there is no Islander dynasty without Jimmy DeVillano. So I think Jimmy kind of falls in with the rest of those players who played the role very, very well.
That would be in a builder category.
Yes.
Yeah.
He brought he followed Lou's playbook. He brought some of the Russian players over, right? Correct?
Yeah.
In the
Yes.
90s?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, then Fetisov came over, and that was the five.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Fetisov left the Devils, went to Detroit, and lost in 95, but then won it in 96.
Right.
All righty. Any other final questions, comments, concerns here, boys and girls? We'll talk about the this year's Islanders. We lost Mike Riley now for the foreseeable future. And folks, when it comes to concussions, there is no timeline.
Yep.
There definitely is no timeline.
I think they just moved him to LTIR today, so frees up some space they can use there. But as we've seen, I mean, I'm sure everyone's we're all hockey fans here. We're talking hockey, but I'm sure everyone's followed the chronicles of Tua Tagovailoa in the NFL. So it's really something. Look, he was knocked the hell out, and I don't see a quick. I don't know. Hoping he's doing well. I'm hoping he's feeling well. But even if he's feeling well, you still got to be so careful with that stuff.
And 50% of this panel know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. Exactly right.
Crazy.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, boys and girls, before we say goodnight? Unless you gentlemen have another question. Beautiful. All right. So, boys and girls, please follow us on Facebook. Like us and subscribe on YouTube. Those numbers have been going up. Thank you so much for that. Don't forget to follow us on X as well at Isles Talk. Don't worry about the young emerging D. Not too optimistic about the season. Look, Andy said it perfectly for me already. Let these kids play now. You got to remember, they're coming up because of injuries, not because of anything else, and that includes Isaiah George. We'll get into him a little later on, but they're all up because of injuries. That's fine. Let these kids play, as the panel have already said. Throw them into the fire. Let's see what they can do. For me, I hope they all hold their composure and that they can handle the game over a long stretch, because we're into a very long stretch coming up into this hockey season, boys and girls. So, we're not going to give up on Dobson, but we want to see a little more consistency out of him. So, Gary, happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir.
Happy birthday,
And
Gary.
where
Thanks,
can they
man.
find you on social media?
At Isles Met 63. And like I said, let's just hope for a better road trip. I know a few of our friends are in Vancouver right now.
They are.
going to see the game tomorrow night and then off to Seattle. So let's hope. I mean, Vancouver's going to be a tough game. I think they can probably pull the Seattle one off and make it a positive road trip. I mean, they're above 500 on the road right now for that 9 out of 11 stretch. So it'd be nice to see to get a couple wins out, but let's keep the fingers crossed.
That's right. Joe, where can they find you?
Local bar, having a beer.
That was a great answer. That's it. I'll send you the
that's all
address,
thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, that's it. At Max's, having a hot dog and a beer. That's it. My
Atta
favorite
boy.
place.
Andy,
That's
thank you so
it.
much for coming on, man. This has been a great time, great talk and whatnot. Where can people find you on social media?
I am at @AndyGraz_19 on the X machine. Thank you for having me on. It was a ton of fun. I haven't done one of these in a really long time, and it was refreshing. So, hey, there's the cowbell. We need more cowbell.
Yes, we need more
So
cowbell.
I think we just need to stay the course. Look, nobody's just more frustrated than any Islander fan of any era, right? I know the younger fans weren't as fortunate to see everything that we've seen with the cup wins and stuff like that, and got to experience that. But I think we all just need to stay the course, right? I think the team is battling through horrific injuries that honestly would have sunk any team to the depths of hell at this point. And
Bingo.
this team is hanging in there, and for that they deserve some credit. I'm leery to always crap on them. I do when I feel it's warranted, but I try not to overdo it, right? Because I think, let's just see how this plays out. Let's get our team healthy and see where we stand come Christmas. It's hard to evaluate game by game. I always say do it in 10-game chunks, right? Let's evaluate the team every 10 games instead of every game or every shift. And yeah, let's just stay the course.
Beautiful. And we will be back on next week, boys and girls. We may have a very special guest coming on for the first time next week. We're going to hold off on it, on his name. I'll be, but we are going to go back in time again with another special guest. And when we get confirmation, that will be out on social media. So make sure you get a hold of us on all the socials. And we will see you next week, boys and girls. Thank you so much. And let's go Islanders.